Hello, Nick, Modern Mystic. I will now endeavor to answer some of your questions, and I've taken a few notes so that to aid me in this purpose. Okay. Right, what is the I? I guess is the subject of this. What is the I? Okay, well, let's start with what it means for anger to be a will. I think a better example, an easier example, though I think that one can hold water, but is lust. What about lust? Let's say lust is more like what I'm talking about, because lust comes to us, and I said in the other video what I thought I am. So I is the conscious self, whatever that is. I think it's just a part of the mind of one of these subsystems whose job it is to pretend it's the whole thing. Okay? And it has some will that it gets to use in order to influence the actions of the body. Okay, we have the stream of things arising. We agree on that. Okay. These are these images, all kinds of impressions. Okay, including very abstract ones, not just pictures, but memories and feelings of aesthetic qualities when you see beauty, or the feeling of awe. These are all these stream of images arising. And I'd say that your inner sense, I agree with your inner sense, that you noticed correctly that you don't create those. Not directly. Okay, you don't directly create them. And all I'm going to say is that we have an influence, that we are one of many of the things that create such images. I do believe that our will, we take the images we get and we create an image as a result. And most of the mind does this. I don't think most of the minds are so like lust that would be so impulsive and be only creating images. I think we're all taking in and creating. Probably. I don't know. I have to draw some of this from the fact that, okay, I'm a little part of the mind. The rest of the mind is similar to me in some ways. It's all made of brain stuff and neurons, but it's also different. It's specialized like I am. So I don't know if it's conscious, for example. But I do know it acts, and it acts as though it has memory and things like this when I'm working with one of these things, where I'm trying to get my lust to be more productive or my hunger to be more cooperative. Seems to have remembered the results of previous ideas it had, for example. And I don't know if it has that memory on its own, or if I, as the consciousness, pull the memory out and show it. And it goes, oh yeah, not sure which, because while I'm noticing it responding to the memory, I'm tending to have the memory at the same time. So maybe it's all my visualization, and it just responds. Maybe I'm the only one that has a will. But I don't think so. I think might be the only one that has the choice, and the conscious choice type will. Who knows? I think I have it, so I know I may be the only one. I actually think that they all have it. I think that lust has multiple ways that it can express itself, multiple lustful ideas that it'll come up with in a situation. Lust is a good one, right? Because lust is very similar. Lust for power and hunger. Lust is one of the ways to look at these things, and the whole deterministic or determined, where it's determined to get a certain result out of the body, and often has a way of getting it, no matter what our little conscious function over here wants to say. And then the conscious function is stuck taking responsibility for it, since it thinks it's the whole thing. That's its job. It's just being a good worker. Okay. What I think is that you can influence the stream of images such that other images will arise. That's how you can create these images. For example, you can go to the place you dreamed of a purple giant as when you were a child, and it's very likely you can bring that image back, especially if you use that place for that purpose. And so you can influence the stream by visualizing certain things, including actions that, if everything else goes according to plan, maybe your hunger says, no, sorry, we can't go out there. I'm hungry, let's eat. You eat first and then go. So, if you visualize a work of art you want to create, again, you get yourself started. It's not like you make that work of art with wholly original things, but maybe you start remembering images of things that you know, want to capture the same feel out of it, feeling, bark or forest, so you think of forest scenes. And it appears that you make choices in this process of visualization, and that the choices affect how good the visualization is as a result. And some people seem better at that when they try it, and some seem worse, according to, by their own report. People will say they're not good at visualizing, though they are, and then they can somewhat demonstrate this through their ability, if they also have an ability to represent in some physical form what they were able to imagine. Right. Now, you also said, okay, will, another subject, will is superfluous. So you don't talk about lust being the will, because well, I would say will is not superfluous, even if it is ultimately robbed of the intentionality that I am ascribing to it as well. Now, we've covered this, and we've largely agreed that there's a material pattern, a system that we can call will, if we're just describing something as this kind of process in a certain kind of system. Okay, certain processes and certain kinds of systems are called will. So we can debate if lust counts as a will in its own right, whether or not we believe that everything is mechanically determined about it. And that's what I want to do, right? I want to investigate what these things would mean based on the way they seem and based on what they can be called descriptively. And as far as our modeling that it's free or not, or has, and what choice means, we will continue, to discuss that separately, right? I think will, we've agreed, has a meaning. Now, it might not mean that you are the puppet master. I don't think it means you're the puppet master. It might not even mean there's choice the way I say with these biological systems. All right. Another subject, I see I have 3 minutes left. It'll probably have to be another video. On me implying dualism. Okay. Because I said something that arises in the mind, or it arises in the lust. When I say it arises, it's like running. Running arises in a motor. A motor starts running. It's running. It's already running. And let's ask, what makes it run? What metaphysical thing makes it run? This is where I say you're stuck on dualism because, and I don't mean that to be insulting, but because it's like you believe in subject and verb. I think. So to say think, I has to do it. There's languages where you don't even mention I, and you just say think, and it does mean I think. Think, I think. Okay? And Descartes assumed that, but you can't assume that. The point of not being a dualist is no, thinking is the process. I arises inside think. It's not I doing thinking, it's thinking manifesting with an emergent property that is I. Okay? That's the non-dualist version of I think, is that there's just thinking going on, and it may express a behavior that we want to identify with a word and call it I, right? So, now, nothing makes it run, right? It's the system just works that way. Nothing's making the motor run. That is how it's working. It's running that way. It's a property of itself, of the system. Nobody has to make it run. Now, I say it's the same thing. So this is a property of the system, not something done to the system. Now, it's the same thing with will phenomena, with steering, okay? With self-steering in living systems. The self-steering, okay, what I'm calling the self-steering, which still could be deterministic, right? But when we identify it as this kind of thing that looks like self-steering, it could still be deterministic, like a robot. This could be called the self-steer, and we would say that's still deterministic because it does that. But the self-steering is still an expression of the system. Okay, it doesn't have to be done to the system. It's a feature of the system. It comes from the system. It emerges from the behavior that we're calling self-steering, in the case of living organisms, of appearing to have intention to survive. Okay. And one more.